revealed, for spine-chilling tales of sinister kids and their terrifying, cursed secrets. The Smith family thought they were escaping the storm, but they walked right into the heart of darkness. The old house creaked under the weight of secrets, whispering in the night with a chilling promise. Something was very wrong. As Tom and Sarah tried to keep the facade of normalcy, their 3 children fell under the house's spell. Nights grew quiet, an eerie, unnerving hush that curled around them like smoke. Every creak upstairs sounded like a warning. Emma, the curious teenager with a brave heart, felt at first a pulse beneath the floorboards, as if the house itself was alive. Brooding Jake stayed hidden in his thoughts, haunted by shadows that flickered just out of sight. And little Lily, with wide eyes and wild imagination, spun tales of friends only she could see, filling the air with giggles that felt forced and high-pitched. Tom brushed off the strangeness. Just the wind, he reassured, fighting back his own growing dread. But every night grew heavier. Then one evening, Emma, rummaging through the dusty basement, stumbled upon a heavy, wooden trapdoor that seemed to throb under her fingertips. She hesitated, heart racing, breath hitching in her throat. Its edges were warped, ancient. With effort, she pried it open. The hinges screamed like lost souls. Dust danced in the narrow beam of her flashlight, revealing a staircase winding into darkness. She descended cautiously, each step resonating through the house. The musty air held a weighty silence, broken only by her shallow breaths. On the cold concrete floor was a collection of dusty journals. She fumbled them open, eyes scanning accounts that turned bile in her stomach, children disappearing over decades, all connected to names that echoed in her mind. The Smiths' new neighbors. Her heart raced. Was this why they had moved here? Questions piled on questions, each more sinister than the last. Over the next few days, a new terror crept in. Jake confided in Emma about his new friend, Luca. He said there's bad stuff that happens here at night, he whispered, eyes darting to shadows that flickered in the corners of their living room. Emma pushed the worry aside until she noticed Lily, her drawings taking darker turns, with wide, shadowy figures looming over scheming children, and a tense smile etched across her face whenever she mentioned her friend. As the unease seeped deeper, Tom and Sarah decided to attend the neighborhood watch meeting. Rumors floated so thick they choked the air. Missing families, homes abandoned overnight, glancing eyes filled with silent screams. Each story wove its way to the Smiths, tying them closer to this palpable fear. They were not alone, yet they felt isolated, trapped. Emma's realization gripped her heart. The town's secrets weren't hidden from them, they were drawn into them, as if the darkness recognized a piece of itself in the Smith siblings. Just as a midnight storm roared outside, rattling the windows, Emma heard a voice calling her from the basement. "Come and see," it whispered, silky and inviting, pulling her towards the yawning trapdoor, promising answers shrouded in dread. But at what cost? As laughter echoed in the air, sinister and childlike, the very foundation of their sanctuary trembled, suggesting that in this seemingly overlooked neighborhood, the real horror had only just begun. Emma stood at the edge of the trapdoor, heart pounding. It felt as if the house exhaled, urging her to descend. The whispers grew louder, now indistinguishable from the roar of the storm outside. With a breath that tasted of fear, she made her decision and climbed down the creaking steps. The darkness closed in around her like a heavy shroud. Flickering the beam of her flashlight, the dim light danced across the cold, damp walls, revealing old spider webs that stretched like the gnarled fingers of the past. Each shelf held a collection of memories, ghosts of a family that had likely lived here long ago. The journals lay scattered in disarray, but one caught her attention, a leather-bound book, untouched by dust, as if it had been waiting for her. Emma picked it up and opened it. A wave of dread washed over her as she read. Handwritten entries detailed strange rituals and children's games in the woods nearby. The last entry was a jagged scrawl. "They come for the ones who listen. Beware the neighbors." Her hands trembled while she closed the book. Suddenly, she sensed she wasn't alone. The silence of the basement buzzed with an unsettling energy. "Emma," the voice was different now, urgent. yet still familiar. She recognized it as Lily's. Emma turned sharply. The dim glow caught her sister's wide eyes emerging from the darkness. "Lily, what are you doing down here?" She knelt and pulled her younger sister into an embrace, managing to steady her breathing. "I wanted to find my friend." "He said to follow him," Lily whispered, her voice almost lost against the whistling wind above. "He said you'd like to see." Emma's stomach twisted into knots. "Your friend? Who is he?" Lily pointed deeper into the shadows, her small hand trembling. "He's waiting for us. He wants to show us." The fear gripping Emma's chest intensified. "Lily, we need to go back upstairs. Now." But Lily didn't move. Her eyes glazed over, transfixed on something Emma couldn't see. As she pulled her sister back towards the stairs, a low growl resonated from the dark recesses of the basement. Emma's heart raced. The shadows shifted, and shapes began to slither across the concrete floor. They loomed towards them, in the forms of small, twisted figures, their faces obscured by darkness. "Join us," they intoned harmoniously, voices overlapping in an eerie symphony. "Lily!" Emma cried, but the little girl stood rooted, entranced. "We need to run." She desperately tugged at her sister's arm, her mind racing. What had Lily seen? What had they been drawn into? In that moment, Jake's head popped down the stairs. "What's going on?" "Mom and Dad are freaking out." "Luca," Lily blurted, snapping out of her daze. "He wants us to play." "Play?" Emma echoed, panic crackling in her voice. "No, we're leaving. Now." As they scrambled for the steps, the basement quaked violently, dust and grime raining down. The whispers transformed into frantic chants, echoing through the confined space. "Stay, play forever." With a final push, Emma bolted up the stairs, dragging Lily and Jake behind her. A gust of wind slammed the trapdoor shut, almost separating them from the darkness below. They collapsed onto the kitchen floor, breathless, eyes wide as they gazed at each other in a shared mixture of fear and confusion. But the moment of calm shattered as the faint echoes of laughter slid back into their ears, rich with malice. Then a sound interrupted the steady, rhythmic thumping of footsteps from just outside their home. "Mom?" Jake whispered, eyes darting to the front door. Emma exchanged a fearful glance with Lily, because that voice wasn't Tom or Sarah. It was too familiar. "Come out, we want to play." And with that, dread settled deep within their bones as they realized the game had only just begun. What awaited them on the other side of that door? The shadows in the kitchen felt heavier, swirling around them as if alive. Emma's heart raced, a frantic drumbeat threatening to drown out the laughter that lingered. The voices, even if soft, were unmistakably childlike, ringing out a melody that sent shivers down her spine. "Who is it?" Jake murmured, taking a cautious step towards the door. "Maybe it's Mom and Dad." "Don't open it," Emma shouted, grabbing his arm. The last thing they needed was to put themselves out there. "Those aren't our parents." "What do we do?" Lily's voice trembled, her features pale as the light from the single bulb above flickered. The laughter outside grew louder, intoxicating. It was playful yet sinister, the sort that no child should ever possess. Emma could feel it tugging at her, a lure that made her want to look through the peephole to see who was calling. But she fought against it, forcing her mind to focus. "We have to think. We can't stay here." Suddenly, the house creaked again, louder this time, the sound reverberating through the walls. Emma caught movement from the corner of her eye there. Peeking from behind the curtains, a shadow darted away. Her breath hitched in her throat. She wasn't just scared anymore. She was terrified. "Maybe we can escape through the back," Jake suggested. He edged closer to the kitchen exit, but a sense of dread anchored Emma's feet to the floor. "Stay together," she urged, glancing nervously at the door as the footsteps outside shifted, circling the house. It was relentless, like a wolf examining its prey. She wished for time to slow down, to gather her thoughts, but the danger pushed her. Before she knew it, the rhythmic knocking began a slow, deliberate pat, pat, pat against the door, blending seamlessly with the lullaby of laughter. It wasn't just playful. It felt like a countdown. Lily's voice broke through the dread. What if it really is Mom and Dad? No, Emma said firmly, squeezing her sister's shoulder. They're not here. We can't trust anything or anyone. The warmth of being with her family felt so distant now. A tap echoed against the window. Emma whipped her head around. Two small figures stood outside, illuminated by the flash of lightning. Their eyes glowed, wide and hungry. Lily gasped, hiding behind Emma, while Jake pressed against her, fear-stricken. One of the figures raised its hand, pointing directly at Emma. Let us in. No, she screamed, heart racing as the door shook under the weight of something outside. The melody rose in a crescendo around them. She couldn't take it anymore. We have to go. They dashed towards the back of the house, fear propelling them. Emma's mind raced as she tore open the back door. The gust of wind howled, a fierce current that seemed to push them back. The yard was just as dark as the basement below, filled with silent trees casting eerie shadows. But then came the laughter again, now echoing in the air around them, circling like a predator ready to strike. Emma grabbed Jake and Lily's hands, their fingers intertwined, bolting towards the tree-line that loomed like a dark fortress. Where do we go? Jake yelled, his voice choked with fear. Anywhere but here, Emma replied, feeling the cold sweat trace her spine. She pressed forward into the night, her heart hammering louder than the laughter following close behind. They plunged into the woods, the branches clawing at them, the whispers of the past scratching at their minds. And just when they thought they were alone, the laughter dimmed, replaced by soft calling, like echoes beckoning them deeper. This way, come and play. She paused in her tracks, breathless and desperate. The voices wound tighter around her, pulling her in. Emma? Lily's voice trembled behind her. Are they coming? In that moment, Emma realized with dread that escape only meant plunging into a darker unknown. Run! She shouted, sensing the encroaching presence growing stronger. But the woods were alive, and something was waiting for them there, lurking in the shadowy depths. As they sprinted deeper, Emma's mind spun with one nagging thought. What if the forest was just as much a part of the game as the house was? Suddenly, a chill swept through the air, and the whispering became clearer, surrounding them like a whispering wind. Stay, play forever in the suffocating dark. Emma knew they wanted more than just a game. They wanted to claim them, all of them. What would they find if they ventured deeper? The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their gnarled branches clawing at the gloomy sky. Emma could feel the darkness closing in, as if the forest itself was swallowing them whole. The laughter, teasing and sweet, echoed through the trunks, mingling with the rustling leaves, creating a macabre symphony that drowned out her fears. Emma, stop! We can't keep running, Jake shouted, his breath coming in ragged gasps. No stopping. We have to find somewhere safe, Emma barked, glancing over her shoulder. The shadows shifted behind them, almost mocking their escape. She could sense it, something sinister lurking just beyond their sight, waiting for an opportune moment to strike. As they pressed on, Lily stumbled over a root, falling to her knees. I can't go any further. Emma quickly helped her up, adrenaline fueling her actions. We have to. They're right behind us. But were they? The laughter had faded momentarily, replaced by an unsettling silence that wrapped around them like fog. Emma's heart raced. The absence of sound felt worse than the noise. Cautiously, they moved deeper into the woods, the faint glow of moonlight scarcely breaking through the dense canopy above. It felt suffocating, oppressive. Where were they even going? Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Shadows danced at the corner of her vision, vanishing when she turned to look. Did you see that? She asked, scanning the dense thicket. Her pulse drummed in her ears. What if they're playing tricks on us? Jake sounded frantic. What are we supposed to do? Emma pressed her lips together, forcing her mind to grind against the rising panic. Focus. We have to keep moving. Emma? Lily whispered, her voice quivering with fear. What if we can't get out? A chill ran down Emma's spine. She didn't want to consider that. We will. We just need to keep going. But deeper they ran, fingers tangling in the branches that seemed to reach for them, pulling tighter. The further they pushed, the more the forest transformed into a labyrinth. Shapes twisted and shifted in the darkness, creating faces out of shadows, eyes that watched. "Wait," Jake said, halting abruptly. "What's that?" Ahead of them, the ground opened, a shallow pit covered in strange, writhing vines that pulsed like they had a heartbeat of their own. It wasn't just the darkness. There was a light, off in the distance, flickering like a dying ember. "Maybe we can hide there," he suggested. "Are you crazy?" Emma shot back, but her voice wavered. The idea of hiding felt like they were sealing their fates in a coffin. "We can't risk it." But the beckoning glow was irresistible, like a beacon promising safety. "Let us check it out," she finally said, though uncertainty gnawed at her stomach. They crept closer, the underbrush snapping quietly beneath their feet, like whispered warnings. As they neared the pit, a voice came, sweet and melodious, luring. "Come closer, you'll be safe here. We just want to play." Emma felt dizzy. "What are you doing?" "Don't listen." But it was already too late. Jake and Lily were drawn in, stepping toward the glowing pit. Emma lunged for them. "No." But the moment she reached out, a wave of cold air billowed from the pit, knocking her back. The laughter returned thick and vibrant, echoing through the trees. "Play with us forever." Emma scrambled on the ground, heart pounding, desperate panic flooding her senses. She pushed herself up and caught a glimpse of her siblings, their eyes distant, entranced. "Run!" she screamed, but it felt futile. Somehow, deep within the shadows, the forest had come alive, snaking its tendrils around her family. "Help us," Lily whispered, her voice so small, barely a breath. Emma felt the ground quaking beneath her, and fear clawed inside her like a wild animal. The darkness sang, calling her to abandon all hope. "You can't run from us." Just then, a violent rustle erupted from behind, branches snapping as something no. Someone emerged from the shadows, gliding toward them. Heart racing, Emma spun around, eyes widening in horror. A figure stood cloaked in the darkness, smirking as if they held the key to all her worst nightmares. "Stay, play forever," it chimed, a guttural melody mixed with childlike laughter. What would she do now that the true horror was revealed? Would she be able to save herself and her brothers from this waking nightmare? The figure stepped closer, its shadowy form weaving through the dim light. Emma's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out the melody that coiled around her like a serpent. What was this creature? Was it the puppet master of the forest, deciding their fate with a sinister grin? "Emma," Jake murmured, his voice barely audible, as if he were trapped within a dream. His eyes glazed over, lost in a world where reality and horror blurred into one. "Lily, come on," Emma shouted, panic bubbling in her chest. She was losing them, but the ground beneath her seemed to shudder, fighting against her desperate pleas. The glowing pit gaped hungrily, vines writhing like fingers eager to ensnare. Every inch closer felt like she was being drawn into a deep abyss. The pit itself seemed to breathe, pulsing with an unnatural rhythm. "Can't you hear it?" the cloaked figure sang, its voice like cold steel. "The song of the forest? They want to play forever." A wave of ice washed over Emma. She could feel the heaves of her controlled breaths, each exhalation mingling with the terrifying lullaby hanging thick in the air. As shadows flickered at the edges of her sight, she registered the ghastly smiles that twisted and flickered like candle flames within the darkness. "No," Emma cried, taking a defiant step forward. "You want to take them. This is a nightmare, and I want to let it consume us." At her words, the figure stopped, expression unreadable. Did it flinch, or was it merely a trick of the shadows dancing along its features? "Bravery has little place here," it murmured, voice dripping with amusement, "but it plays so well. Would you like to join our game? If you win, perhaps they will be freed." The offer, a twisted, sickly sweet promise, hung in the air like a noose. Emma felt her mind racing. Games? What kind of twisted games? She glanced back at Jake and Lily. They stood frozen, mouths slowly morphing into lifeless grins, a mockery of innocence. "Emma!" Jake suddenly screamed, as if breaking through a spell. The glimmer in his eyes flickered momentarily, sparking an ember of hope deep within her. "Do not listen to them," Emma shouted, her voice sharp, cutting through the thick silence. "Play with us." Emma, the forest beckoned, wrapping around her body like a shroud. The choice is easy. Was it? Could she risk everything? Her heart waged a one-sided battle against the all-consuming fear. They were her siblings. The thought of abandoning them sent shards of ice through her veins. The shadows thickened, and she could see the glowing pit pulling at her feet, inviting, enticing. But as she swallowed hard, an idea ignited in her mind. What if it was a trap? What if she could turn the game against them? "All right," she shouted, voice trembling but determined. "I'll play your game, but what are the rules?" The figure tilted its head, its grin widening, revealing teeth that were sharper than they should be. "Oh, it's simple. Prove your worth to join our eternal playground. Then let us begin," Emma declared, clenching her fists. But before she could process what had just happened, thick fog enveloped her, and she was sucked into an unknown realm, each heartbeat echoing with the promise of peril. "Be careful." Emma Jake's frantic whisper echoed through the haze, fading into nothing. Now, immersed in darkness, she thought, what had she just done? What awaited her in this twisted game where the stakes were not just her life, but her family's very souls? And as the sounds of children's laughter wrapped around her like chains, she knew she had stepped onto a path from which there might be no return. In the distance, a clock began to chime, its tolling resonating through the trees, marking the beginning of a time she might not survive. What had she awakened? What else would the forest demand before this game reached its end? The fog enveloped Emma, thick and suffocating. A weight pressed down on her chest, and every breath felt like a battle. The laughter of unseen children wrapped around her, pulling her deeper into the nightmarish maze of shadows. She could barely see her own hands in front of her face as she fought against the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the laughter pierced through the fog, a high-pitched giggle that twisted into a wail, echoing through the trees. It was a sound that sent chills racing down her spine. The forest around her felt alive, pulsing with a strange energy that vibrated in her bones. She forced herself to take a step forward, heart pounding in her ears, determined not to be swallowed by the dark. "Where are you?" she whispered, hoping to pull Jake and Lily back into reality. But the words were gulped up by the dense mist. As she moved, the chilling laughter began to morph into something sinister, a call to the children who had vanished into the night. They were out there lost, trapped, and she had to find them. In that moment of desperate determination, the fog receded just enough to reveal a worn path beneath her feet. It twisted and turned like a serpent, disappearing into the deeper shadows. She clenched her teeth, trepidation gnawing at her. "I'll find you," she shouted, propelling herself forward with each echo of her voice. Emma, the whisper came again, more haunting than before. It was another voice, weaker and more scared. "Help us, Lily," Emma cried. "Is that you?" She bolted down the path, heart racing as she sought the source of the voice. But the laughter returned, a chorus of mocking giggles that gripped the air and twisted her stomach. "Not here, not now," the forest sang, its tone transforming from playful to threatening. "Come play with us instead." Eyes darting through the trees, Emma strained to catch even a glimpse of her siblings. Desperation clawed at her throat. She could feel the hidden eyes watching her, waiting for her to falter. The trees suddenly parted ahead, and Emma stumbled into an odd clearing. Ghostly pale mist floated above the ground, dancing around tombstones that jutted out of the earth like crooked teeth. Names were barely etched into the stone, faded by time. She stepped closer, squinting to read them. Little fingers brushed against her skin, childlike hands clutching at her, pulling at her clothes, pleading. "Play with us." Emma, their giggles rose again, musical yet so dark. "No," she screamed, shaking off their spectral grasp. "Where are my siblings? Where's Jake? Where's Lily? Join us, Emma," came the haunting reply, a symphony of voices blending into one. The air thickened with sorrow and longing, and she felt a chill seep into her bones, making her freeze. What had she awakened? Everything then went silent. The trees stood still, and the fog rolled away just enough for a moment of clarity. Out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a faint glimmer, something shiny nestled under a tombstone. Pulsed like a heartbeat. Emma edged closer, heart hammering in her chest. She bent down, fingers trembling as she reached for the object. What was it? A key? A locket? But as her fingers closed around it, whispers swirled around her, growing more frantic, more dire. You shouldn't have taken it. Emma, before she could react. The ground trembled beneath her, the laughter growing louder, and the shadows twisted, forming into a grotesque mob of faces, all staring at her with unblinking eyes. What have you done? They hissed, the ground shaking violently like the forest was alive and angry. Emma's chest tightened. The stakes had risen, and now the game was about to change. She staggered back, trembling as the shadows closed in, and she realized just how much she had stirred. A nightmare awakened, one that could consume her whole. In that moment of rising terror, she understood. This wasn't just a game for survival anymore. It was a game of choices that could destroy everything she loved. As the world around her faded into chaos, she clutched the object tightly. What would it reveal? And would it be enough to save her family from the very game she had entered? Time ticked on, each chime echoing the urgency of her impending doom. Emma's heart raced, the pulse of the object in her hand matching the chaotic rhythm of her fear. The shadows swirled closer, their laughter mingling with the oppressive fog, rising to a deafening crescendo. You shouldn't have taken it. The voices churned like a dark ocean, each wave threatening to pull her under. She glanced down, her blood running cold. The object she had snatched from the tombstone, it was a small, tarnished locket, cold against her palm. It felt alive, as if it harbored a secret. A dread loomed. Might it contain something that could save her or, worse yet, seal her fate? Emma, please. A soft voice broke through the cacophony, frail and edged with desperation. It sounded like Lily. Help us. Emma turned, eyes searching the swirling shadows for her sister's face. But with every heartbeat, the laughter escalated, drowning her in a tsunami of echoing delight. They were taunting her. Every giggle twisted her gut further. Join us, they sang, beckoning. A sweet poison that promised joy yet dripped with sorrow. No, she cried, clutching the locket tightly as if it were a lifeline. Where are you? Where's Jake? The shadows paused, momentarily caught in her piercing scream. For a heartbeat, the mist shivered, then exploded outward as if responding to her plea. Emma stumbled back against a tombstone, the cold stone biting into her skin. Show me, she demanded, fear morphing into rage. Suddenly, a vision ignited in the depths of the locket, a burst of pale light swirling out and merging with the fog. She gasped as images flickered to life. A playground blanketed in leaves, bright smiles of children, then a flash of her siblings, their laughter pure yet tainted with an underlying scream. Emma, find us. Their voices called again, this time clearer. Hope ignited within her, burning against the shadows encroaching like a dark tide. With renewed resolve, she shouted into the fog, I will. But for every step she took, the ground convulsed beneath her. The laughter morphed into shrieks of rage, and the forest seemed intent on pulling her back. Don't leave us! The chorus surrounded her, the faces of the shadows contorting in mock despair, their eyes glowing with fury. Emma ran, driven by the image of her siblings' trapped gazes. The locket pulsed, guiding her like a beacon. She tore down the path, not caring where it led, just needing to escape the clutches of the shadows now screeching behind her. But jagged roots lashed at her ankles, trying to entangle her, slow her down. The terrain seemed to morph, twisting as if the forest were alive. Join us, the voices echoed, drowning her resolve in a swirl of despair. Her frantic eyes caught glimpses of figures in the distance. Were they real? Could it be Jake and Lily? She stumbled forward, breathless, her heart thundering like a wild drum. But as she reached out, the figures vaporized, slipping through her fingers as the shadows howled in triumph. The fog thickened, suffocating her resolve. "No!" she screamed, the word lost in the chaos, swallowed whole by darkness. Emma hesitated, breathing heavily. The locket felt heavier, pressing against her chest like a stone. What lay inside? Would it unveil a way to save her family or merely serve as another cruel trick from the forest? As the forest darkened, the edges of reality blurred. Nothing felt real anymore. Only the pulse of those shadows closing in once more, a twisted game that was far from over. A final laugh erupted, echoing through the abyss. Choose wisely, Emma, she froze, knowing one single choice could change everything. What terrifying decision would she make in the heart of that looming darkness? The fog clawed at Emma's skin, thick and cloying. She gasped, trying to shield herself from the shards of laughter that cut through the air. "What do you want from me?" Her voice trembled, yet a flicker of defiance ignited deep within. The locket pulsed again, its rhythm fierce and constant, a heart beating out of sync with her own. Maybe if she opened it, but would it unleash something worse? Her hands trembled, the cold metal burning against her warmth. "Use it!" The shadows screamed, their fury rising to a fever pitch. "Unlock the truth!" The wild chaos danced around her, hungry and insatiable. "Show me how to save them!" Emma shouted, desperation spilling over. If she had to gamble, she'd do it on her own terms. The shadows recoiled, tightening their grip and dragging the fog closer. With a deep breath, she pressed the locket open. Light exploded from within, blinding and bright, weaving through the suffocating darkness. The laughter turned to wails, twisting into horror as the light pushed back the shadows. Emma squinted through the brightness, catching glimpses of her siblings' faces, swirls of anguish and pleading glances. "Emma!" they cried, voices wet with despair. "Help us, please!" The images flickered, caught between moments of bliss and chilling terror. She clenched her jaw, heart pounding. The joy, was it real or just a cruel mirage? The shadows shifted, growing darker, their laughter morphing into a sinister hiss. "Close it! Close it!" they shrieked, fear leaking into their madness. But Emma couldn't. Not yet. What was this power? The locket sang to her, a melody of hope mixed with a symphony of dread. The revelations spiraled around her as the past unfurled. She remembered the playground, the warmth of summer days tangled with the whispers of secrets better left unspoken. "Find us, Emma! Run!" The echoes rang clear, but the shifting fog kept her pinned, a web of sorrows tightening. Suddenly, the visions twisted, revealing a dark fissure opening beneath Jake and Lily. The laughter of the shadows swelled to a deafening roar, drowning all vestiges of hope. "Join us!" they crooned, their song addictive yet suffocating. "No!" she screamed, desperation igniting a fierce resolve. "I want tea. Not now." Fighting against the pull, against the shadows that clung like wet rags, she willed the light to intensify, to split the darkness asunder. The pain of loss clawed at her heart, memories of her siblings threatening to consume her. The figures began to dissolve, flickering like flames in the wind. "Emma, please," they whimpered. A choice surged to the forefront. Would she step into the shadows to save them, or would she risk it all to harness the light? The shadows writhed, furious at her hesitation. "Choose!" Their cries echoed in her mind, a warning that both choices led to peril. The locket flickered in her grip. Its weight seemed to shift, whispering secrets meant only for her ears. She took a deep breath, courage settling in her bones. Would she take the leap? Just as she moved to act, a familiar voice broke through the cacophony, an unexpected solace that spun the air tighter. It was Jake. "Emma, you have to decide. We're running out of time." In that fleeting moment, clarity struck her like lightning. "I will save you," she shouted, the locket thrumming wildly once more. And with that declaration, the forest darkened, the shadows closing in, ready to unleash their fury. Emma's heart raced as she prepared to plunge into the unknown. But when the light enveloped her, She didn't know what awaited on the other side. Would her courage be enough to break the curse? Would it fracture the hold of darkness forever? The shadows laughed, knowing she had stepped into the game, but they did not yet realize Emma was not done fighting. Choose wisely. Emma. The whispers faded to silence, leaving her to face the encroaching darkness alone. What would she uncover within the mystery of that cursed locket? And what would her choice mean for Jake and Lily? The blinding light swallowed Emma whole. It wrapped around her like a torrent, pulling her deeper into a realm where shadows and light twisted in a deadly dance. She felt her body thrumming with energy, the locket's pulse syncing with the frantic beat of her heart. But where was she now? The forest had melted away, replaced by a distorted landscape that glimmered with a fraudulent beauty. The ground shimmered, reflecting an unearthly glow that felt both inviting and suffocating, as if it wanted to claim her. Emma. The voice floated around her, syrupy sweet but laced with menace. It belonged to nobody she recognized but echoed with familiarity, drawing her forward. Mist curled about her feet, inching up her calves, chilling her even further with each step she took. Help us! The cries of her siblings reverberated through the air, desperate and haunting. But the words twisted, becoming taunts, paralyzing her with fear. You can't save us, they shrieked, their voices morphing into the cacophony of laughter from the shadows. She staggered back, heart racing. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over her. Were her siblings lost beyond reach? The ghostly landscape morphed, revealing shadows writhing in the corners of her vision. They lurked, watching her with insatiable hunger. Choose, they hissed, their voices a chilling symphony. Join us or let them be lost. Shut up, Emma yelled, the defiance in her voice barely masking her fear. I want to give in. The shadows hesitated, and for a moment, the choking fog lifted just enough for her to breathe. It gave her a second's worth of hope. She held the locket close to her heart. The warmth radiated against her chest felt like an anchor in the uncertainty. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath her, fissures appearing like crawling mouths gaping wide. The ethereal glow morphed from inviting to venomous, dark shapes creeping from the cracks, eager to pull her down into oblivion. Help us, Emma! The voices of Jake and Lily rang louder, echoing against the walls of her mind, insisting, begging for a moment of clarity amidst the chaos. Shards of memory flooded her thoughts. Laughter on road trips, lazy summer days, secrets shared under blankets. Those fond memories warped, melting into something grotesque, distorted. They clawed at her resolve, wrapping fear around her heart like a vice. Time is running out. The urgency in their voices sharpened, cutting through the despair. Emma felt a desperate rush of energy. Could she still rescue them? The locket pulsed fiercely, a heartbeat syncopated with her own, urging her to delve deeper, to confront the shadows. She understood now. She needed to find the truth buried inside its depths. With trembling hands, she fumbled with the locket, and the surface glimmered, a hidden message swirling within the depths like smoke. She could almost make it out, a vision of her siblings caught in the darkness, their faces twisted between hope and despair. Please, Emma, they cried, and she felt the ground begin to shift violently beneath her. I'm coming, she shouted back, staring defiantly into the abyss. She closed her eyes and let the locket guide her, hoping it would unlock the path to her siblings. Just as she focused her thoughts, a surge of darkness shot forward, snatching at her ankles like a grasping hand, determined to pull her in. Emma, make your choice, the shadows shrieked. Join us, or lose them forever. Her heart thundered, a battle raging within her. Would she embrace the very darkness that threatened to engulf her? Or would she risk everything for the light? The choice loomed, heavy in the mist, and as she opened her eyes to the swirling chaos, she realized whatever path she picked, the consequences would be earth-shattering. The locket began to glow intensely again, shadows recoiling from its light. The laughter morphed into frantic whispers as dread closed around her. What terror awaited as she discovered the truth hidden within? Would she unravel the nightmare, or become part of it? The fog parted as Emma's determination flared like a beacon. Instinct surged within her, igniting a path forward. "I choose light," she proclaimed, voice ringing clear, a clash against the darkness. The shadows recoiled, a sharp hiss escaping as if they were scalded. "Foolish child," they screeched, anger vibrating through the air. But Emma pressed on, an unstoppable force bursting through the onslaught of whispers and laughter. The locket pulsed with warmth, wrapping tendrils of light around her, guiding her steadily deeper. "Help us!" Jake and Lily's voices spiraled into her mind like a haunting melody, but trembled with urgency. Their faces flickered into view, desperate and distorted. "Stay strong. I'm coming," Emma screamed, tears blurring her vision as she barreled through the shifting maelstrom of color and shadow. The world twisted, weaving between moments of daylight and haunting darkness. She sprinted, her heart pounding against the relentless thrum of terror. Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath her, fissures splitting open, revealing starlit voids. Dark fingers shot up, grasping at her ankles, whispering promises of despair. "Join us," they crooned. "It's easy. Embrace the shadows, no," Emma shouted, shaking her head. Images of joyful summer afternoons pierced the veil of gloom, memories of laughter shared as siblings. She shoved against the pull, letting warmth blossom within her core. "You'll never take us." Her cry echoed loud and fierce, drowning out the sinister lullabies. The locket flared in response, casting forth brilliant light that rippled through the fog, dispelling shadows like a summer dawn chasing away the night. Light enveloped her completely, a brilliant armor chasing the darkness away. Before her appeared a swirling door, beckoning her with tendrils of shimmering light. She knew instinctively that beyond it lay the truth, the heart of the curse clenching her family. With a deep breath, Emma stepped forward, plunging through the luminous threshold. The world shifted yet again, and suddenly she was in a vast, open space filled with vibrant colors. The air buzzed with energy, and the warmth that enveloped her felt safe. She turned, shock ripping through her as she saw them, Jake and Lily. "Emma!" They rushed toward her, wrapping their arms around her waist tightly, faces bloom with relief and joy. "I thought I lost you," Emma gasped, barely able to restrain her tears of joy. "We heard you." Jake grinned, illuminated by the unnatural glow of their surroundings. "You saved us. That thing was trying to trick us," Lily added, her eyes wide, filled with terrified delight. "But you didn't let it. You fought back." But something loomed behind them, the shadows, hissing and thrashing against the brilliance encasing the three of them. "You can't escape," the darkness screamed, clawing at the very light that protected them. "You will be ours." Emma tightened her grip on the locket. "No more games," she shouted, the power swirling within echoing her rage. "I choose to fight. I choose them." With the declaration, a blinding beam shot from the locket, a river of light flooding the scared chamber. It dispelled the shadows, burning the sinister whispers away, transforming terror into freedom. The shadows writhed in agony, enveloped in their own chaos, crying out for release as they were pulled back, consumed by their darkness. In a final burst, the light enveloped her family, and Emma felt warmth radiating from her heart, a connection unlike anything before, the ties of kin stronger than any curse. Suddenly, the scene shifted once again, and they found themselves standing in their kitchen, sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating the mundane serenity. They were home. Breathless, Emma turned to her siblings, their faces radiant, glowing with the remnants of joy and triumph. "We made it," she breathed, and relief washed over them like a cleansing tide. But lingering shadows twisted and danced at the corners, remnants of the darkness that had once gripped their lives. "Not entirely," Jake murmured, glancing back toward the flicks of darkness. Emma nodded soberly, understanding the battle was not over. But together they had uncovered the secrets. Together they could stand up to it. Sarah and Tom emerged from the living room, confusion etched on their faces. The storm outside raged less fiercely now, as if the house softly exhaled solidarity. "Are you all okay?" Sarah's voice quivered with worry. The warmth of the family's reunion, a balm against lingering fears. We are, Emma replied, glancing at Jake and Lily. Their bond now forged even more tightly through testing trials. But we need to talk. As they settled into a circle in the cozy warmth, the shadows blinked uncertainly at the edges, somewhat weakened but far from gone. They understood now. The curse of the neighbors and the secrets of the forest could still sit lurking in the dark, but light existed too. United by love, courage, and truth they discovered. Emma knew they could fight any darkness together. The game may have threatened them, but they had found a way to turn the tides. They would learn to navigate the shadows together. As the night crept forward, they huddled close, whispering plans for shared strength against looming unknowns. And the whispers of the shadows faded into the night, swallowed by the love burdened with unyielding strength. So as the day dawned anew, Emma understood her journey was far from over. Each shadow unveiled held a story of choices and courage. Together, they would face the remaining darkness until the light broke through, because family was stronger than any curse could ever try to claim. Together they would truly decide how the story ended. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this daring conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who can't miss out on the next wild adventure.